Welcome everybody. Day 22 of the book reading A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Chaos and higher order. When you know yourself only through content, you will also think you know what is good or bad for you. You differentiate between events that are good for me and those that are bad. This is a fragmented perception of the wholeness of life in which everything is interconnected, in which every event has its necessary place and function within the totality. The totality, whoever, is more than the surface appearance of things, more than the sum total of its parts, more than whatever your life or the world contains. Behind the sometimes seemingly random or even chaotic succession of events in our lives, as well as in the world, lies concealed the unfolding of a higher order and purpose. This is beautifully explained in the Zen saying, the snow falls, each flake in its appropriate place. We can never understand this higher order through thinking about it because whatever we think about is content. Whereas the higher order emanates from the formless realm of consciousness, from universal intelligence. But we can glimpse it and more than that, align ourselves with it, which means be conscious participants in the unfolding of that higher purpose. When we go into a forest that has not been interfered with by man, our thinking mind will see only disorder and chaos all around us. It won't even be able to differentiate between life good and death bad anymore, since everywhere new life grows out of rotting and decaying matter. Only if we are still enough inside and the noise of thinking subsides can we become aware that there is a hidden harmony there, a sacredness, a higher order in which everything has its perfect place and could not be other than what it is and the way it is. The mind is comfortable in a landscaped park because it has been planned through thought. It has not grown organically. There is an order here that the mind can understand. In the forest, there is an incomprehensible order that to the mind looks like chaos. It is beyond the mental categories of good and bad. You cannot understand it through thought, but you can sense it when you let go of thought, become still and alert, and don't try to understand or explain. Only then can you be aware of the sacredness of the forest. As soon as you sense that hidden harmony, that sacredness, you realize you're not separate from it. And when you realize that, you become a conscious participant in it. In this way, nature can help you become realigned with the wholeness of life. So, when we are talking about the highest order or the universal intelligence, there is no chaos. Everything is happening at the right time for the right purpose. It is only when we as an individual are not in alignment with what is as it is that we feel, there's too much chaos, there's too much happening in my life, pata nahi kya hoga, and so many other things. And they're nothing but nice stories and perceptions thrown by the egoistic mind. So in reality, is actually totally everything is in order. Everything is happening as per the universal intelligence, as per the highest order. And it's very interesting to note here, plants and trees, they are an amazing example when it comes to being the way it should be, because all plants, all trees, they, if you look at any tree in your vicinity or any tree close to you, there will be a time in that season that they will be fully blossoming, nice leaves, पूरा हरा भरा अच्छा खासा पेड़ होगा. And suddenly, after some months, a few months, when it's the fall, they will lose each and every leaf they have. Not even a single leaf will be there. सब झड़ जाएगा. अब उस थॉट पे दो चीजें हैं. जब तो पत्ते आ रहे थे, तब तो ट्री ये भी सोचा यार फॉल आएगी, मेरे ना पत्ते बिखर जाएंगे, इनको मैं संभाल ही लेता हूँ, अभी टाइट कर लेता हूँ. और जब फॉल आएगी तो वो ये भी सोच सकता है कि यार मेरा तो सब कुछ ही लुट गया. आई डोंट इवन हैव वन सिंगल लीफ ऑल्सो ऑन मी. It does not think like that, because it is in harmony with what is as it is. और उसको वो चीज पता है कि ये मेरे साथ हर सीजन में होंगी. And we have trees which a lot of them are in so many years. I mean, much more than the average human life. So we have trees 100 years, 500 years, 400 years, and they are continuously in harmony with the highest order, because they know, that's the cycle that is going to go, and they never question it. But as a human mind, we always have questions. ऐसे कैसे, कब होगा, हुआ क्यों नहीं अभी तक. There was a beautiful example. I was listening to some question and answers. Okay. So you can go, it's a very high religious leader. You can go and ask your questions. So there was this guy, very senior guy, very learned, and he asked a question, Ki Babaji, when do you think that I will be able to evolve spiritually to a level which I am actually targeting? He was talking about a level where he wants it to be quite highly spiritually aligned and uplifted. The spur moment where the answer came was fantastic. He said, only when the questions in your mind go away, that is when you will be spiritually aligned to a level what you're actually looking for. Because it is only in the questions that we entangle ourselves, or the play of the mind is only through the questions. And we want, as a human, we feel it's very good to ask questions, because yes, that is a phase you have to go through. Because till the time you will not ask those questions, you will not get more clarity. But deep down, you need to be also clear that Jo Bhagwan, yeah, God, universe, almighty, energy, whatever name you want to call it, whatever that is happening for a purpose. And each and every second of yours also has a purpose. When we are in alignment with our purpose, or when we are in alignment with what is as it is, the first thing that happens is we stop questioning. And that why, WHY, the famous हमारा होता है ना, why me in everything, why this, why that. And the first thing that vanishes is that why. Because you are now in harmony with the highest order. You are now in line with the universal intelligence by accepting what is as it is. And that is where the chaos actually vanishes, and you start understanding the purpose of each and every experience that you are having in your life, and how is it, aligned with your main purpose of taking this birth and coming to this school of earth. So the sara chaos khatam hota hai because you are in alignment with what is as it is, and there is no why and there is no question. Good and bad. At some point in their lives, most people become aware that there is not only birth, growth, success, good health, pleasure, and winning, but also loss, failure, sickness, old age, decay, pain, and death. Conventionally, these are labeled good and bad, order and disorder. The meaning of people's lives is usually associated with what they term the good, but the good is continually threatened by collapse, breakdown, disorder, threatened by meaninglessness and the bad. When explanations fail and life ceases to make sense, sooner or later, disorder will erupt into everyone's life, no matter how many insurance policies he or she has. It may come in the form of loss or accident, sickness, disability, old age, death. However, the loss or accident, sickness, disability, however, the eruption of disorder into a person's life and the resultant collapse of a mentally defined meaning can become the opening into a higher order. The wisdom of this world is folly with God, says the Bible. What is the wisdom of this world? The movement of thought and meaning that is defined exclusively by thought. Thinking isolates a situation or event and calls it good or bad as if it had a separate existence. Through excessive reliance on thinking, reality becomes fragmented. This fragmentation is an illusion, but it seems very real while you're trapped in it. And yet, the universe is an indivisible whole in which all things are interconnected, in which nothing exists in isolation. The deeper interconnectedness of all things and events implies that the mental labels of good and bad are ultimately illusionary. They always imply a limited perspective and so are true only relatively and temporarily. This is illustrated in the story of a wise man who won an expensive car in a lottery. His family and friends were very happy for him and came to celebrate. Isn't it great? They said, you're so lucky. The man smiled and said, maybe. For a few weeks, he enjoyed driving the car. Then one day, a drunken driver crashed into his new car at an intersection and he ended up in the hospital with multiple injuries. His friends and family came to see him and said that was really unfortunate. Again, the man smiled and said, maybe. While he was still in hospital, one night there was a landslide and his house fell into the sea Again, his friends came the next day and said, "Weren't you lucky to have been here in hospital?" Again, he said, "Maybe." The wise man's maybe signifies a refusal to judge anything that happens. I repeat, this is a very powerful line. The wise man's maybe signifies a refusal to judge anything that happens. Instead of judging what is, he accepts it and so enters into conscious alignment with the higher order. He knows that often it is impossible for the mind to understand what place or purpose a seemingly random event has in the tapestry of the whole. But there are no random events, nor are they events or things that exist by and for themselves in isolation. The atoms that make up your body were once forged inside stars, and the causes of even the smallest event are virtually infinite and connected with the whole in incomprehensible ways. If you wanted to trace back the cause of any event, you would have to go back all the way to the beginning of creation. The cosmos is not chaotic. The very word cosmos means order, but this is not an order the human mind can ever comprehend, although it can sometimes glimpse it. So, when we talk about the mind, it's interesting that the mind always wants to judge, always wants to, label something. This is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. But is that the reality? Because if whatever your mind, in an individual mind, is judging or labeling a situation as good and another situation as bad, that same situation which has been labeled as good by our mind is not necessary that it is good for everybody. And it's quite a possibility that that same situation for another person is labeled as bad by his mind. So क्या उस situation में कुछ है? No. It's only a perception of our mind. So जब हम उस perception of judgment में चल जाते हैं, which is nothing but a tool of your mind, that's not the reality, because your judgment is based out of your experiences, your upbringing, your belief system, your conditioning, your program. And everybody's conditioning and programming will be different. There can be commonalities, but they will never be the same. So what is good for me as per my perception or as per my judgment may not be good for the other person. So when he talks about this wise man, the most appropriate word in any situation is the word maybe. Because then we are open for all that is required, all that is there for our best and highest interest. Because उस टाइम पे हम उसको जज नहीं कर रहे हैं. And we are, that's one thing, if you can master, is judgment. Because somehow we are the way we are conditioned in terms of our beliefs, in terms of our upbringing and programming. Somehow we are judging everything, everyone, all the time. That's hard reality. Because हर एक चीज में हम एक जजमेंट बना रहे हैं अपने माइंड के हिसाब से. I mean, just think of any incidents which happened with you today or which you can remember, and just try to look at it from a macro angle and see how many judgments have you made in that particular instance. So it's very important to actually, try to be at that position where you are not into judgment. And, use this master word, maybe. Because whatever is there, if I am in alignment with my higher self, or I'm in alignment with the higher power and the universal intelligence, then whatever is best for me will flow. And if I am not judging it, that whether it is good or whether it is bad, and I'm coming from a premise of neutrality, that is, when you use the word maybe, you are actually in a state where now the mind gets confused. Main kya karu? Because the mind only knows the extremes. It's good or it's bad. Neutral kya hai? वो mind समझ ही नहीं पाता. And there is a reason, because the mind actually always is looking for a situation where it can get more attention. So if it's in that area of neutrality, good bhi nahi hai, bad bhi nahi hai, main kis taraf jaun? That's where the mind actually gets confused. And that's where we all should actually try to practice to be in that zone of maybe. And deep down, have this trust and faith rather than doubt whatever is happening. Have that trust and faith that whatever is happening for you right now at this particular point of time is happening for your best and highest interest. उस thought को trust और faith का पानी डालो and be in that zone of neutrality where we are not just passing our judgments. It is a beautiful book. I really want to do it in the book reading, but somehow मेरे को PDF नहीं मिल रही. The book is, again, it talks about judge's mindset and a learner's mindset. I'm forgetting the name of the book, but yeah, it's a beautiful book where it talks only and only about how to get rid of our judgments. So let's see if you can get that book. But yeah, I'll try to post the link of the book. मेरे mind नाम नहीं आ रहा. Change your life. Change the question. Change the life. That's the name of the book. Change the question. Change your life. So it's a beautiful book. But yeah, that's all about dropping the judgment. Because सारा पंगा उस judgment में है. Because it's the judgment that has made you this viewpoint. This is good, this is bad. But if there is no judgment about any, situation, person, event, or circumstance, then there is nothing for the mind to feed on. Because then it's in that zone of neutrality where you are at a juncture where even if it is good, I am okay. And even if it is bad, I am okay. Because what matters most is, at the end of the day, you need to be at peace and you need to be okay about things. And even if at times, if things are not okay, it is okay not to be okay also at times, not always. And the more we start working and being in that zone of neutrality, being in that zone of maybe, the more you will be able to actually, use the mind in the most efficient manner and not just run after, the judgments or the stories that is created by the mind. Not minding what happens. J. Krishnamurti, the great Indian philosopher and spiritual teacher, spoke and traveled almost continuously all over the world for more than 50 years, attempting to convey through words which are content that which is beyond words, beyond content. At one of his talks in the later part of his life, he surprised his audience by asking, "Do you want to know my secret?" Everyone became very alert. Many people in the audience had been coming to listen to him for 20 or 30 years and still failed to grasp the essence of his teachings. Finally, after all these years, the master would give them the key to understanding. "This is my secret," he said. "I don't mind what happens." He did not elaborate, and so I suspect most of his audience were even more perplexed than before. The implication of this simple statement, however, are profound. When I don't mind what happens, what does that imply? It implies that internally I am in alignment with what happens. What happens, of course, refers to the suchness of the moment, which already is as it is. It refers to content, the form that this moment, the only moment there ever is, takes. To be in alignment with what is means to be in a relationship of inner non resistance with what happens. It means not to label it mentally as good or bad, but to let it be. Does this mean you can no longer take action to bring about change in your life? On the contrary, when the basis for your actions is inner alignment with the present moment, your actions become empowered by the intelligence of life itself. So I don't know if you guys have heard about Jettu Krishnamurti, but yeah, he's one of a kind of a person. I mean, extremely knowledgeable, highly enlightened. When he was in his body, he's no more right now in the physical body. And there were actually times where people compared Jettu Krishnamurti to Osho in terms of his intellect and in terms of the way he used to give lectures and everything. And इसका साउथ में काफी है institutes. So he was actually mistakenly thought that he is the incarnate of Buddha, because Buddha, when he left the body, said that I will come back after 5,000 years. But yes, Buddha also said that I will come back in the name of Maitreya. But since his name was not Maitreya, there were some Europeans who thought that this guy has that potential to become the next Buddha. So there was some Theosophian college, वहाँ के वो head थे, and they took him with him from his parents and took him to make him well versed with all the theosophical knowledge and everything. But somehow it eventually did not go the right way, and he parted ways with them. But he was an extremely intelligent guy. So do watch his videos and all. They're very nice. But when he said his secret after, say, 20, 30 years, it's very simple. I don't mind what happens. And that is a way of expressing your alignment with the universal intelligence. That is a way expressing your trust and faith that whatever is happening is for my best and highest interest. And when you say that I don't mind what happens, means I am actually in alignment with what is as it is. Is that so? The Zen master Hakuin lived in a town in Japan. He was held in high regard, and many people came to him for spiritual teaching. Then it happened that the teenage daughter of his next door neighbor became pregnant. When being questioned by her angry and scolding parents as to the identity of the father, she finally told them that he was Hakuin, the Zen master. In great anger, the parents rushed over to Hakuin and told him with much shouting and accusing that their daughter had confessed that he was the father. All he replied was, "Is that so?" News of the scandal spread throughout the town and beyond. The master lost his reputation. This did not trouble him. Nobody came to see him anymore. He remained unmoved. When the child was born, the parents brought the baby to Hakuin. "You are the father, so you look after him." The master took loving care of the child. A year later, the mother remorsefully confessed to her parents that the real father of the child was the young man who worked at the butcher shop. In great distress, they went to see Hakuin to apologize and ask for forgiveness. "We are really sorry. We have come to take the baby back. Our daughter confessed that you are not the father." "Is that so?" is all he would say as he handed the baby over to them. The master responds to falsehood and truth, bad news and good news in exactly the same way. Is that so? He allows the form of the moment, good or bad, to be as it is, and so does not become a participant in the human drama. To him, there is only this moment, and this moment is as it is. Events are not personalized. He is nobody's victim. He is so completely at one with what happens, and that what happens has no power over him anymore. Only if you resist what happens are you at the mercy of what happens. And the world will determine your happiness and unhappiness. The baby is looked after with loving care. Bad turns into good through the power of non resistance, always responding to what the present moment requires. He lets go of the baby when it is time to do so. Imagine briefly how the ego would have reacted during the various states of unfolding of these events. So, it's a beautiful example given, and it's so simple. If you do not get caught up and attached with what is happening around you, and you maintain that neutrality, whether it's good, whether it's bad, and you make, the maybe your mantra, or is that so? Acha, you know, it's as simple as that. But yes, to practice it without, getting attached to the meaning making machine, जो mind ने meanings बनाए हुए हैं, without being, bothered about the story that the mind has actually cooked up regarding this whole situation. Because, it can be difficult. If we take this example, if somebody comes and say, "This is your baby," and you willingly accept, but you don't say, and suddenly, people are talking about you, nobody's coming to you, you can get a mental shock as a normal person. यार मेरा तो, nobody wants to come to me. How will I get my food? अगर लोग आएंगे नहीं, कुछ खाना नहीं आएगा तो क्या होगा? There's so much of thought that can actually go into that. But that guy was very clear. If it is, then it is. That's the God that is, actually living the God's will with your trust and faith and being in acceptance of what is as it is. The ego and the present moment. The most important, the primordial relationship in your life is your relationship with the now. And rather with whatever form the now takes, that is to say, what is or what happens. If your relationship with the now is dysfunctional, that dysfunction will be reflected in every relationship and every situation you encounter. The ego could be defined simply in this way: a dysfunctional relationship with the present moment. It is at this moment that you can decide what kind of relationship you want to have with the present moment. Once you've reached a certain level of consciousness, and if you are reading this, you almost certainly have, you are able to decide what kind of a relationship you want to have with the present moment. Do I want the present moment to be my friend or my enemy? The present moment is inseparable from life. So you are really deciding what kind of a relationship you want to have with life. Once you have decided you want the present moment to be your friend, it is up to you to make the first move, become friendly towards it. Welcome it no matter in what disguise it comes, and soon you will see the results. Life becomes friendly towards you, people become helpful, circumstances cooperative. One decision changes your entire reality. But that one decision you have to make again and again and again until it becomes a natural way to live in such a way. The decision to make the present moment into your friend is the end of ego. The ego can never be in alignment with the present moment, which is to say, aligned with life, since its very nature compels it to ignore, resist, or devalue the now. Time is what the ego lives on. The stronger the ego, the more time takes over your life. Almost every thought you think is then concerned with past or future. And your sense of self depends on the past for your identity and on the future for its fulfillment. Fear, anxiety, expectation, regret, guilt, anger are the dysfunctions of the time bound state of consciousness. There are three ways in which the ego will treat the present moment: as a means to an end, as an obstacle, or as an enemy. Let us look at them in turn so that when this pattern operates in you, you recognize it and decide again.